I'm not sure that I'm not sure that it's terribly damaged. Frankly, I think the use of the word transitory or the use of the word wrong was I think a little bit harsh to be battled against by the outside world. I mean, don't forget these projections were made prior to the war in Ukraine, and to note that no one sort of was able to foresee how these prices would move, inflation would rise, and so forth. So I think, did she get it wrong? I think everyone got it wrong. And I think that's frankly the point that she should have made, that no one was able to anticipate that this war was going to take place, and the Western world would go on an oil embargo and so forth, right?
Harry, sorry, my friend, look, we didn't all get it wrong. Some of us spotted that there were trends years ago, way before COVID, way before the war. There was a lack of spending on infrastructure in hydrocarbons around the world because people were worried about price. There was a lack of spending on hydrocarbons around the world because people were worried about regulation and climate change regulation, both at a state level and a federal level and an international level as well. There was a huge amount of stimulus put in when we had very, very low historic rates across the world. Stimulus that was put in by Mr. Trump, stimulus that was continually put in as well later on by Mr. Biden. It's wrong to reinvent history, Harry, and say that all these factors couldn't have foreseen a greater burst of inflation.
Well, I think you're confusing cyclical with secular trends, frankly, and I think that's really important to unbundle that. I don't think anyone was foreseeing a war of Russia and Ukraine a year ago, let alone 6 months ago. Is this the result of what has been going on for the last several years? Maybe to some extent, but I do think it's important to unbundle between cyclical matters and secular matters. And I think, was the world economy slowing down for other reasons? Yeah, to some extent, I think that's true. But I think it's a little bit harsh to say that both she and Powell did not recognize that there was going to be a war and that the West was going to put in place an embargo on oil prices and food prices was going to result by Russia blockading what Ukraine was exporting.
But Harry, and I hear what you're saying, I love the debate, so I think you're right to bring in the cyclical versus structural. I totally agree with you on that. But the fact is, when I'm speaking to the US Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm, and she's telling me that the problem with US infrastructure in its ability to put more gasoline into the pumps and to keep prices low, she's telling me that's because of COVID. It's because of the war. That is just palpably not the case, Harry. I went to so many of these conferences with the likes of Schlumberger, with the likes of Baker Hughes, and I saw for 2 years before the COVID crisis a huge dive in global investment in hydrocarbons for a whole host of reasons. But it's wrong for politicians. It is wrong for central bankers to reinvent history, Harry.
No, I have been chomping at the bit about infrastructure, that we have underinvested in infrastructure, not just in the U.S., but elsewhere. But that to me is part of the secular regime. And so you and I are in agreement that this is a secular phenomenon, and it's made worse by the cyclical issues. And that's my point. I think we need to appreciate both of these factors at the same time. I have been a champion of making more investment in infrastructure in the U.S. I think that has been our Achilles heel for decades.
Steve doesn't mention the 1.9 trillion stimulus plan and the fact that we've had incredibly low interest rates pretty much from the global financial crisis, which have also, I think, stoked the flood of money into global economies. Harry, to what extent do you think post this mea culpa now it's going to be harder for the Biden administration to get through any legislative program which is designed to tackle perhaps some of the structural challenges that we've been discussing, i.e. more construction, more improvement in the infrastructure of America, a reduction in drugs prices, and some of the frictional aspects of the US economy that are continuing to stoke inflation?
Well, I've worked both in the White House and I've worked on Capitol Hill, and I got to tell you, I've never seen sort of a more, battle-drawn debate between all these legislative and executive branch. I'm not very hopeful, frankly, that we're going to get a lot of good policies gotten through the Congress. And I think, environment up there is so acrimonious and so politicized that, and it's important to distinguish between the politics and the policy. And I think we've sort of, left the policy aside, and we're now focusing on politics in Washington. And I think that is the real tragedy here.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.